Okay, so this video is covering Chapter 20 of Improving Vocabulary Skills. Um, let's go ahead and take a look at the word list here and try to guess as to parts of speech from the way they sound. Our first one's aloof. Then we have ambivalent, augment. That's actually a tricky one because the empt, M-E-N-T, will make us think one thing, but it's actually not that case. Dispel, explicit, longevity, magnitude, mundane, obscure, and render. Okay, so our first word here is aloof, which is an adjective. Some people say the British are aloof, but British people I've met seem warm and open. I knew that Tyrell was upset with me about something because he was aloof even when I tried to be friendly. So what aloof means is cold, but it doesn't mean cold in the sense of temperature cold. It means cold in the sense of not being interested in talking or interacting with someone. On page 115, aloof is number 8, cool and reserved, distant impersonal relations. So when we talk about someone being aloof, oftentimes it appears that the person is either, well, a lot of times when you use the word aloof, it means that the person seems like they don't want to talk to you or they don't want to have interactions with you. Oftentimes the way that we interpret this is that they think that they are better than us for some reason or another. But really, aloof means having a sort of behaving in a sort of way that makes you appear as though you don't care about interacting with other people. Our next word is ambivalent, and this is an adjective. Because I'm ambivalent about marriage, Earl said, I keep swinging back and forth between wanting to set the date and wanting to break off my engagement. I'm ambivalent about my counselor. I appreciate her desire to be helpful, but I dislike her efforts to interfere in my life. Ambivalent having mixed feelings. Now if we take a look at the word, it begins with ambi, and there's some other words like this, like ambidextrous. If you describe someone as ambidextrous, what that means is that they can use either their right or their left hand for activities. So they can write with their right hand and they can also write with their left hand. They can play tennis with their right hand, they can play tennis with their left hand. You could also talk about it with feet, like in soccer. You know, if you're ambidextrous, you can shoot equally well with your left and your right foot. So what ambi means is both. So when we talk about someone being ambivalent, it means that they're attracted to both sides. The word valent is related to valence, which if you I guess this would maybe be in biology, maybe in chemistry, but we talk about this in terms of magnets. And so you know, in magnets there's a positive and a negative side, and so we talk about the attraction of those ones. So ambivalent really means that you know, either side is okay with you. If you look at the way that it's used in these sentences, you'll notice that it's followed by about, and then following about is the noun or the thing that you're not sure about, or that you can see both sides of the issue attract you. So if you're ambivalent about marriage, it doesn't mean that you think marriage is a bad thing, but you also think that not being married is a good thing. You sort of like they're both equally good. In the second one, if you're ambivalent about your counselor, the person who's giving you advice, doesn't mean you dislike them. It's just like you see value in what they're saying, but you also see value in other things. On page 115, it's number 5, having conflicting feelings about someone or something. Our next one is augment, and this one's a verb, and that's the tricky one because normally words that end in ment are nouns, but in this case this one's a verb. Why are women so willing to augment their height by wearing high heels when this kind of footwear is so bad for their feet? Because Jamila needed additional money, she augmented her salary by typing term papers for college students. Augment means to add to or to make larger. Augment is used in a couple of different ways. So like if we look in this one, we're talking about augmenting someone's height. What that means is making them taller. We also talk about augmenting our appearance, which would be making our appearance look better or make us look better. In the second one, we're talking about augmenting your salary, which means making your salary bigger, adding to it. On page 115, augment is number 9, to increase, to make greater, and specifically as in strength or quantity. So strength, one of the things that men, well, not just men, but people do to augment themselves is, work out. So you're making yourself stronger. You're augmenting your muscles and strengthening them. But it can also be in terms of quantity. So if you're augmenting your salary, you're making the amount of money that you receive bigger. Our next word here is dispel, and this one is a verb. Vickie's sweet note of apology was enough to dispel the slight anger Rex still felt towards her. I tried to dispel my friend's fears about her blind date that evening by telling her that my parents met on a blind date. So what dispel means is to eliminate. On page 115, it's number 1, to drive away as if by scattering, to cause to vanish. Okay. So we had this word eliminate before, I believe. Eliminate means to get rid of something completely, right? Just taking a look here. No, again, it must have been in 22. But eliminate means to get rid of something completely. Dispel is a little bit different than that. The way I think of dispel is similar to the way we have the word disperse. So when we're dispelling, we're getting rid of something, but we're getting rid of it by sort of clearing the air. It's not an automatically like you're cutting something off. So when you eliminate, for example, if you're trying to lose weight, you might eliminate sugar from your diet. It means you completely cut it off. But you wouldn't say you dispel it, because dispel has more of a meaning of that. The way that you're getting rid of it is slower and more gentle. Eliminate has the sense of, you do one thing and it's gone. But dispel means that you do something and then slowly it goes away. So if you look at the first example, the apology note, right? It's dispelling the anger that Rex felt. So it's not like boom, the anger is completely gone. It's just that slowly. You know how that feels. It's like, sort of how we get hot when you get angry. So like dispel is what makes you cool down. It's more gradual. In the second one, dispelling fears. It's not, if someone is afraid of something, you can't just say, don't be afraid of that, and the fear just boom is eliminated. So to dispel it means like you're giving some soft advice, and gradually the fear will go away, not right away. Our next word here is explicit, which is an adjective. Even though the instructions were explicit, we were still unable to put the bookcase together. My parents were very explicit about what I could and could not do during their 3-day absence. They presented me with a detailed list. So explicit means specific, but it's more than just specific. Explicit means specific and detailed. That if you are explicit, it means that you're very, very clear about what someone should or shouldn't do. So explicit is often used with instructions. On page 115, it's number 4, stated or shown clearly and exactly. So in the first one, it says even though the instructions were explicit, even though the instructions were very, very clear, and showed you step by step, they still couldn't put together the bookshelf. In the second one, the parents were very explicit about what you could and couldn't do. So it's not just a general statement about be good, don't be bad. That wouldn't be explicit. Explicit means like, okay, here's what you can do. You can stay up until 10 o'clock. You can watch as much TV as you want. You can play video games. Those are the three things you can do. What you can't do: have friends over, order pizza, drink alcohol, whatever. But the explicit things are, you know exactly what the yeses are and exactly what the nos are. Next one here is longevity, and this one is a noun. Toyotas and Hondas are known for their longevity, often outlasting more expensive cars. The animal with the greatest longevity is the giant land tortoise, which can live several hundred years. Longevity means long life. Now, if you look at it, it has the word long in it. But longevity is talking about how long something can live. And specifically, when you say that something has longevity, it means that it continues. It's long lasting. It doesn't have a short life. It's not temporary. It's not transient. It's something that is long lasting. On 115, it's number 10, length of life, lifespan. So in the first one, it's saying Toyotas are known for their longevity, meaning that Toyotas and Hondas, they last a long time, which I think we probably all know. And then the giant land tortoise has the greatest longevity, means it has the longest life of all living things. I certainly wouldn't want to live several hundred years. I don't know about you. Our next one here is magnitude, which is a noun. Numbers in the billions and trillions are of too great a magnitude for most people to grasp. When the banker realized the magnitude of his error, he panicked at the thought of being responsible for the loss of so large a sum of money. Magnitude means a great amount, but let's back off of that just a little bit. Magnitude really means how serious something is. So magnitude is a word we hear a lot when we talk about earthquakes, right? An earthquake, I don't know what the scale goes up to, but it can be of different magnitudes. Like a 1.5 magnitude earthquake is not very serious, but a 6.5 magnitude earthquake is very serious. So magnitude doesn't necessarily mean that it's a huge amount, but it's the measure. It's the measure of how serious something is. So in the first one, numbers of billions and trillions, those are of a great magnitude, of a huge magnitude, of a very large or serious amount. In the second one, is saying the magnitude of his error, means he realized how serious, the level of seriousness of his mistake. He realized he needed to do something. So magnitude means the size, or specifically tends to be used for greatness of size. Our next word here is mundane. Because Usha teaches belly dancing every day, it is simply one more mundane activity to her. The most mundane activities can turn into extraordinary events. For instance, I met my best friend while washing my clothes at a laundromat. Mundane means commonplace, or day to day. We had the word earlier. Hopefully, yes, it is in this one. We had the word banal. Banal means boring because it's uninteresting. We also had the word menial. Menial is closer to the word mundane. Mundane means everyday, and as a result, sort of boring. So in the way that we say banal, something is banal because it's so ordinary. Mundane is boring for the same reason. Menial I guess menial we said was unskilled, but a lot of the menial, we talked about menial household tasks. A lot of those are commonplace tasks, ordinary or everyday. Our next word here is obscure, and this one's an adjective. The chemist didn't express his theory clearly, so it remained obscure to all but a few scientists. The police easily discovered who committed the murder, but even to the best psychiatrists, the killer's motives remained obscure. What obscure means is unclear. Um, on page 115, it's number 7. It means not easily understood, not expressed clearly. So there's a word illegible, which normally talks about handwriting being unclear. Obscure is not the same is not unclear in the same way. Obscure means it's unclear because it's hard to understand the reasons or the motivations for it. So in this theory, the reasons for this theory are obscure, meaning it's hard to understand what the reasons are. And the second one, the motivations of the killer, the reason why someone killed these people, are obscure, meaning that it's not clear, it's not easy to understand what the reasons are. Okay, and our last word here is render, and this one is a verb. Don't let the paper don't let the baby near your term paper with that crayon, or she'll render it unreadable. Phyllis added so much red pepper to the chili that she rendered it too hot for anyone to eat. So render means to make, but you'll notice that in both of these cases, oftentimes render is used to make something bad or make something unusable. So in the first one, it's talking about, the baby with the crayon would make the term paper unreadable, and in the second one, the woman rendered it uneatable, like so that you couldn't eat it. But render really means to cause something to become something. So to make something become something. In the first case, we're making the term paper to become unreadable. In the second case, the woman has made the soup, I think it's a soup, the chili, to become uneatable. Okay, so it can be used in the affirmative as well, but we see in both of these examples it's more of a negative meaning. All right, go ahead and finish off the questions, and then bring any additional questions that you have to class. See you then. Bye.